Aloha keiki! Welcome back to the Home Garden Network Homeschool Edition. Auntie T is back with another lesson, and today we're going to talk about food sovereignty. Are you ready? Let's begin. So food sovereignty is kind of a big topic that has a lot of different perspectives. So to begin understanding it, we'll start by breaking down and defining what food sovereignty means. Now, food, we all know what food is. But sovereignty is a word that means that something has ultimate rule or authority over something else. So think about the kings and queens in England. In England, the kings and queens are called the sovereign. They're called the sovereign because they hold the ultimate rule of their country, England. So when we break that down into food sovereignty, we're talking about your right to choose what food to eat, where it comes from, and even how it is grown and produced. One way that we can do this is by having local farmers, producers, or growers of food interact with the community or the consumers of the food. And together, they'll make joint decisions on the best benefit and protection for all people involved. Now, this sounds like the right way and a really easy thing to do, but it's not really being done right now. Currently, in the United States, we have very large farming corporations that do something called monocropping. If you remember, monocropping, mono means one. So what they're doing is they're growing one major crop every single year on the same land. And in the United States, that crop is either corn or soybeans. And that's not very sustainable for the land or for food production. Sustainable means that something can last a long time, that it can be maintained at that rate. So if you think about it, if you were to stand up on two legs, you can probably stand there for a while, right? But what if I told you to stand on one leg? Could you still stand there for a long time? Maybe, but it would be a lot harder. What if I told you to tippy toe once you're on the one leg? Then could you stand there a long time? No, right? That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because your body wasn't made to stand on one foot on the tippy toes all the time. Just like the land wasn't made to produce one crop over and over and over. When you do that, the land begins to lose the nutrients and the soil is depleted of all the good bacteria and nutrients that are in there. And this can't be sustained over time. So for this, we want to look back at our ancestors, or even the Native American tribes in North and South America. At one time, those tribes were able to eat over 300 foodstuffs in a year. And that's because they would gather food from the ocean, from rivers, from land animals, or even gather plants, nuts, berries, and various fungi that came seasonally. If we compare this to today, most people only eat 20 different foodstuffs in a year. That means we're losing out on a huge amount of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and diversity in our diets. And that's where food sovereignty comes in. People have a right to know what they're eating, where it comes from, and should have a say in how it's produced. And we want to relate this back to our last lesson with natural pesticides. Many of those large corporations, because they're producing such a large amount of food, they spray their crops with pesticides. And that's not something that we want to eat. Some of the ways that you can help to spread the food sovereignty movement is by sharing the information you know. You can also shop at local grocery stores, and they'll usually carry local farmers' produce there. Or you can go to a farmer's market, and when you're at a farmer's market, you can actually talk to the farmers. You can ask them questions. What do they use for pest control? Who's harvesting their food? Because when we're talking about countries like Ecuador, Brazil, or Mexico, we don't really know what they're putting on the food, and we don't know who's harvesting or even growing the food. And that's one thing that I want you to do this week in your hands-on activity. In your hands-on activity, you're going to get a sheet, which looks like this. And on this sheet, you're going to find a list of food items. When you go to the grocery store, find those food items and mark down where they come from. They'll usually have a little label. And that was one of the things I was really shocked to see when I did this activity. Because pomelo trees, mango trees, and avocado trees are all over. Yet, these items are being imported in from Mexico, Ecuador, and Brazil. Brazil is 7,000 miles away. This is not a sustainable way to receive food for Hawaii. If anything were to happen and food could not come in, Hawaii would be in big trouble. This is something that you can help spread and even work on yourself by growing your own food. And that concludes today's lesson of the Home Garden Network Homeschool Edition. Aloha! Thank you!